Whoa, okay, I guess I am live. Okay, sorry guys, I'm wearing my Silver Raiders hat. Okay, let's say that guy right there. Slow down, y'all. Yeah, I'm okay, fellas. Hang on a second. I have to make some people sheriffs. So pretty soon you'll figure it out. Let's see. Yeah, mechanical keyboard. I've got the little, my little cheater one I can take with me. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of this kind of stuff. I'm going to do a little brief chat here, brief little discussion about the $600 silver and things. And I've got maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes, and then I'll get a ding here and I'm going to have to attend to things. Let me shut off our heat. Reduce the background. Swap over until it gets warm enough. So, okay, there we go. No, I'm sick of the old Selectrics and that kind of stuff. I taught myself to type on old IBM equipment. I'm in this weird little age thing. I'm in the middle of the boomer group. So I was too late for the games and that sort of thing, and too old for it, and but was ahead of the curve for computers. So I had to do something as an adult in my 30s and decided, okay, I'm going to make a living. I'm going to go to work for the government in order to teach myself to type, because males were discriminated against. We didn't get offered typing in school because the sexist thinking was that only people that needed to type were secretaries, because that's the way it had always been. Men weren't, as a rule, secretaries, ergo you didn't need to learn to type. It was a real handicap, a real crushing handicap to not be able to type when computers came along and everything started going, that direction, right? So I did something very, at the time, probably rather foolish. But I got a job at the Washington State Library typing overdue notices. And I couldn't type, but I was a clerk typist. And I taught myself to type, and I was up to about, maybe 30 or 40 words a minute very shortly. And they're little, you just type these little things and they go into a mailer and off they go. You'd have to type thousands of them. The Washington State Library is one of 16 repository libraries scattered throughout the United States. So it has copies of documents from Library of Congress and stuff, and all of this stuff is intended to support our legislature and other libraries and so on. So there's vast quantities of overdue activity. And, they're not real bitch notices, because you're talking about sending them off to legislators who have maybe some legitimate reason for having that book that long. But anyway, so I had to type those. Eventually got up to about 120 words a minute. Which was blinding as far as the library was concerned. And I do all the overdue notices in about 45 minutes of a day, and then go fuck off for the rest of the day in the stacks and read things. And so I before that, I was the Washington State Library's biggest personal customer, because individual people could check out books as long as, and these other products they had, as long as they weren't in demand for government. And you had to surrender them if government wanted them while you had them. But other than that, they had no restrictions. And so I just started reading, educating myself, when I realized how ignorant I was of how things worked. One of the things I read was the entire section on finance. Now that was abysmal because it was stuff written in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, because it's in a state library and it's the old tomes, right? Nothing really new. But it gave me a sound understanding of the different schools of economics, et cetera, et cetera. And then, it did actually, in a way, it prepared me for stunk days. So we're gonna, I have to say that I was wrong. I apologize to everybody here. We're gonna love $600 silver. Okay, so I thought it was, I always had this, the way the data always laid out, we had our $600 silver days. And basically, on the other side of that particular vision of data sets was a large data set that described Mad Max world. So, I didn't think $600 silver was going to be that cool. Now, the Mad Max world stuff, admittedly, is, and even the $600 silver, is concentrated negative information. The way it works, people tend to express more negative thoughts, especially prompted by the dopamine algorithms in Twitter and some of these other sites. We express more negative thoughts, ergo my software would concentrate those, and so we would get a very negative picture of reality. There were compensatory things I could do to kind of even it out, and it turned out that, well, at that time, the negative picture of reality had some validity for forecasting. In any event, though, so here we are at our $600 silver days. Let's just put AG. And what I'm going to find much more fascinating is the ratio between gold and silver. When that starts changing, that's the very significant temporal marker for the sci-fi world that encompasses this, and also the split between silver 1 and silver 2. I'll put this down as a subscript. I don't know how they're going to reference that. It's just an isotope. They're just going to discover something about silver in a naturally occurring form. I don't know if we'll be able to synthetically make other silver that way or not, but it will make this silver 2 more valuable relative to magnetism and electricity. I don't know what that discovery is going to be. It was just forecast in the data sets. Anyway, so here we are in the cusp of the $600 silver days. It's like, wow, I don't feel too bad. I hate to say it. I don't really like taking pleasure at the. Well, no, that's not true. I'm a warrior guy, and I like winning. All right, I'll own it. I'm legit about that. When I fight, I enjoy winning. Don't enjoy losing, so I don't do it. Not very much. Anyway, so here we are. Forget about Mad Max world, because it is not commensurate with our approaching this point right here. And this is one of those things where we've got like we've got a weird juxtaposition, because right now we've got the fourth turning. And so the previous fourth turning in the United States was in the 1920s. And here we are in the 2020s. And in between there, we have the baby boom generation born as basically as grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the, what do they call it? The hero generation. Heroes. And these are the baby boomers. That's me and all of the other ugly old guys. And here we are with the 2020s, and we're in another fourth turning, which means another generation of heroes is going to emerge. These heroes took on the Nazis. Okay, coincidentally, we have Nazis on this planet now in the form of the CCP. We have all of the accoutrement. We have everything from an Indiana Jones movie. We got uniforms and the CCP and their concentration camps and the whole 9 yards. Anyway, so the boomers are the great-grandparents and grandparents of the people that will arise up here in the hero generation here. So it's just an interesting place to be, because in the book, The Fourth Turning, we're as boomers, we're the prophets, and we learn. Those of us that survive, we learn from our grandparents, the heroes, and what they went through, and we're here to translate it and provide it into context for this generation that's going to go through it now. And, you know, it's a terrible thing, blah, 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 but it's a great thing. It's the worst of times and the best of times simultaneously, because you cannot judge the best unless you've seen the worst. That's just the way of reality. You know, it's all Taoism and Sufism and all of that kind of stuff, right? It is factual. It is true. All of these little aphorisms encapsulate universal truths in little nuggets, like chicken McNuggets. They can just down them and get them in you real quick. Anyway, so here we are in this cycle right here, or in this cycle here, we had the financial crash and the Great Depression. So we had thin Great Dep. And here, we're going to have something new, because we're actually transitioning out of a system that was created just before this. 1914, the creation of the dollar, yada, yada, yada. We come here, it's toast. So we've got to have something new. And so we're going to get into this, as we said in the data sets, this sci-fi world. In sci-fi world, it was always a plethora of plethoras, to quote El Guapo, my great friend from south of the border, south of a couple of borders, who's now ranching large in Texas, right? Losing a third of the audio. Well, sorry, guy. It's probably my voice or this tail I've got. Anyway, but we have a plethora of currency systems in the sci-fi world. So this is going to be shocking for everybody and exhilarating as we emerge into a chaotic system that will all be evolving. It won't be handed down from above, as we're now seeing. So basically, this is a quick little discussion here to say silver people are freaking. I've had all kinds of contact with my silver buddies, and they're whether they're in retail or hoarders or whatever. Everybody's just like, whoa, whoa, it's, you know, it's all going down now. And it may indeed be all going down now. We'll see tomorrow exactly how long it'll take for the ratio to start really altering. Once that goes, then the pressure is on the banks in a very significant way. Not that silver doesn't pressure them enough, and silver is going to pressure some very unexpected places. So bear in mind, guys, $600 silver ain't good for Tesla cars. It's not good for Tesla photovoltaics or their power walls, any of that. So there's going to have to be a readjustment of our basic industrial structures around the realities of prices on these things like silver. Now, the powers that be have done it to themselves. They're not going to have anybody to blame but themselves when the whole thing comes crashing down. But we're going to have to go on and deal with and pick up the mess. And we'll have to do it in some very trying circumstances here that will be replicating the 1930s and the emergence of the war with the Nazis. So we'll have to do that over these next 18 years. We're going to have to go through and rebuild an entirely new economic structure in the midst of dealing with political corruption, getting rid of that. That's independent of the fact that there's intellectual corruption. Well, there's corruption everywhere. Doesn't matter where you look, there's corruption everywhere. But the intellectual corruption has gotten into the politics, and we're in a situation where the intellectual corruption is killing people in the form of, you know, stupid ass things to do when you think you got COVID, or those kind of things, right? Or let's all make a brand new technology, never try it, never test it for 10 years, and then jab it into as many people on the planet as we can possibly get, and see what happens. Damn. Humans are stupid sometimes, especially political humans who think they understand science, or experts. So beware of all of those. Beware of experts with computer models. Beware of politicians with computer models. Beware of politicians pulling experts along. Anyway, so we'll get the $600 silver. Commensurate with that are a number of major sci-fi temporal markers for the Western part of reality, let's say from Europe through over to Australia, but including South America. So if we look at a lot of those old reports from the 2016 and 2017, we see a number of forecasts for space goat fart kind of activity that is indeed emerging. So we're now seeing more replication of unexplained artifacts being discovered, and a breakdown in the system that used to contain those discoveries, which actually goes to what the orcs did with the hedge funds. Because now the hedge funds are bleeding out. We don't know how long that bleed will go on, but so the hedge funds and their 70 billion, that's all bribe money. And that bribe money had to go to cover politicians' politics that's being bribed on UFOs and ancient artifacts and the stuff in the Smithsonian, as well as, rigging elections and all of the other, human trafficking and all of that kind of stuff, the more surface kind of issues, because it's all being supported by this continuing fund of bribery. Once you start bribing a guy not to talk about the UFO, you got to keep bribing him to keep him from talking about the UFO, even if you're paying him to work on the UFO. It's just the way it goes. And so the bribe money is starting to get whittled down and destroyed. And we're going to see secrets revealed like mad as a result of that. This is the, now, okay, so if the indicators were appropriately located by my software back when, and if I appropriately interpreted the weighted language at that time, and if that language was not too garbaged too polluted by the blue space chicken cult shit all over, then it is possible now to suggest a potential scenario that connects our $600 silver to this vast horde of secrets revealed. And here's what would happen, and it might happen fairly rapidly because we're primed for it. In those data sets, these the release from Maryland and Delaware, or Maryland, Delaware, but wherever, Maryland and Delaware, a secret facility, a federal building that had underground or basement, has all these secrets in it. It gets broken into, and at the time that I saw the data sets, it was all wrapped up in these food riots, which didn't make sense. We didn't have much in the way of food pressure at that time, or any more excessive. Now we've got a lot of it here on the social order. So we're primed for these food riots to come on up, and the people are supposedly fleeing something and run across this facility and think that there's food in it. And it's the data set would have it be an accident, as in there's a mob, they pull back, a car comes slamming in and takes out a fence, and the mob just goes through the fence, that kind of a thing, right? So it wasn't an assault, it was more of an accidentally breaking in and then looting. So, but if you were going to legally characterize it, it would be breaking and entering, and looting probably. In any event, though, what happens is that we get data dumps of people taking their, very bad pictures with their phones of all these documents and shit that they find, and it goes out into the internet while it's happening, not like necessarily live stream, but maybe so. And so there's this surge of secrets revealed that was connected to our $600 silver by timing and may indeed still be connected to food if we get to a point here in the next few weeks as a result of the economic breakdown from the current economic crisis that's now unfolding, that'll reach another minor spike on the 11th or 12th of February. If that continues, then we may find that there's an immediate breakdown in certain areas relative to food deliveries, which would cause the conditions that would set this up. And where would those breakdowns likely to occur? I would say maybe Washington, D.C. Maybe it might be very difficult under the economic conditions that we've got going to sustain populations in particular areas, especially when they're all wrapped in with, tons of wire and stuff. So I'm using, by the way, the only reason I'm doing this is I was futzing around. I had some other stuff to do. I was out here trying to exercise because I've been sitting down too much driving into medical appointments. But I saw the live stream and I thought, I'm going to check out how YouTube does it. And it's not that bad. It's not too annoying. Anyway, so we may have that connection there. So if you have those reports, you can go back and look and you'll see some of the things that may indeed connect us to a lot of those temporal markers. But it was like Sci-Fi World is here. I know my buddy David Morgan, the silver guru guy, he's boy, he's going to just be dancing all day. He's going to be dancing for weeks. And Bixweir and all of the, this kind of thing, right? So it's going to be strange too, because the giant secret's revealed to everybody about how all this shit works. About the settlement, the DTCC and the various corporations that do the settlement, and they don't ever really, and there's never really any stock actually traded anymore, and people don't have stock certificates and all of that. And then now we're going to get into the silver and the COMEX and the dirty dealings there, and how they routinely would set people up and wipe them out, set people up and wipe them out. This is not that kind of a condition at the moment, because not only do we have the emergence, as I was saying, of the hero generation, part of whom are, standing up now doing this, but we also have the confluence of the biggest drawdown in 100 years in physical silver has occurred in the last 20 years with the production of all the Teslas, the power walls, all the photovoltaics, all the electronics, all the phones, and all of this. It's really cut into the silver that can be used for monetization. Now, bear in mind, that's the other side of this, right? You may like holding that ounce of silver. I used to have one lying around here somewhere. We were testing it for magnets. Beat the crap out of it too. But anyway, you may like holding that 1 ounce of silver at $1,000, but bear in mind, it may make your telephone cost $4,000. I don't know how it's gonna go relative to that. Anyway, so where am I at? 145. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so there's two other unfulfilled temporal markers that go along with the $600 silver that I didn't think that we would actually end up seeing. I don't know if they're going to be part of the secrets revealed. One of them was a late arrival. Okay, so that is to say that the silver sets and everything had emerged long before. They were maybe nascent in 2008, went through 2012 and peaked in 2016. We're still kicking through in 2017 when we get into the cryptos. Within the $600 data sets, we have this period of time that I always pegged for late winter, early spring. That is to say February into March. In that period of time, we're going to have these two temporal markers relative to the $600 silver in some manner. It isn't linked in the data set. This is a set, so they're just all clumped in a bag, so to speak. You know they're related, but you can't tell how at the time you get the words. And this relates to Veritasium in the government, and specifically around the word stability. So that was one of the markers, was that the government would approach Reggie Middleton, the as a patent holder. Okay, that's the only thing that the data sets had indicated to us, not as a CEO or in any other role, but as a patent holder. And they wanted to talk to him about stability. I'm presuming stability in the markets that we're going to just crash into starting late tonight as everything starts to open up. And then the second marker about that was the indication of the mass adoption of the cryptocurrencies, because it was contemporaneous. They're not causally linked. In other words, the government might take 3 months to get around to talking to Reggie about some aspect of stability relative to markets, but we can rush right into crypto adoption en masse really quickly. Anyway, so it's going to be kind of fun for that. Reggie with all of his problems. Anyway, we'll hear what he's got to say from interview with Jean-Claude here pretty quick. I think this week. I've got a couple of the that I'd had way back when and still hanging around on them. I'm going to have to get going. I've got a lot of chores and we've got other stuff for tomorrow. But so then one other thing about this was the magnets. Okay, so I've had the one patent granted. They have two other provisional patents in a sense related to this. One that they've granted on shielding. But I've got 9 others relative that are in prep. Okay, so the U.S. Patent Office is examining 2 others, and I'll hear about those relatively soon. I've got 9 others in prep for going on in that are coming out of the Theoria. And I'm not particularly even plowing through it that fast. Other people are doing their own work with it, coming up with their own magnetic ideas. Interesting aspects of this, though, and I'm hoping to be superseded. So in other words, I'm hoping my efforts with the magnets and stuff will just fade away and I can drop that because it'll be taken over by someone who can put in more energy, more time, and so on. Because again, the magnetic drive or the UFOs or the emergence of all of this stuff came in this year and was also relative to $600 silver. There's no way to tell. I always presume the $600 silver was later on, but these are all linked into this idea of desperation. So follow me here. The key word for the driving impetus for government, whatever that may mean, and remember in the past I've said, so some colonel gets elected to be the head of the junta, and he, in the United States, and he releases the hidden tech in the holes in the ground due to desperation. And desperation was the driving force of it all. And now we're setting up where the powers that be are getting into a level of desperation we've not seen in my lifetime. The language coming out of them now relative to what has just only happened with GameStop and has yet to happen to silver and gold. So they will be literally bleeding, and there will probably be power elites that fling themselves out of high buildings here, or are flung out of high buildings as a result of what's going to go down over these next couple of weeks. And so we're going to get into that time of desperation. Again, it gets back to the heroes who have to endure all of this and get through it all, right? No, my magnetic shielding is entirely magnets themselves. I can form a magnetic field that will corrode another magnetic field and not let it penetrate. That's the patent. So anyway, so it's very interesting, very unique that way. So here we are getting into this point where the heroes are going to be standing up. We're going to be getting into our desperation period for the that will appear within this next 18 years as we move forward on all of this. And it is also coincident in that period that we get the release of the space alien technology kind of stuff in the deep holes. And damn if we don't have that COVID bill saying they've got to tell somebody something in the first part of June about UFOs. And I suspect once they tell somebody, and if we're especially in a period of desperation, the leaks will just start coming out like, you know, water when you drain spaghetti, just in a sieve. Anyway, so yeah, I got to go. It was nice sort of chatting for a few minutes. Interesting software. Hopefully I can use it in the future here, time permitting. Yeah, there are no aliens. Okay, dude. um, okay, there are no aliens. Yes, I'll agree with that. And got to head off and get some work done so I can go out and annoy people tomorrow. Bye.